You have to trust your teammates. Always. If not, we are lost.
Right, okay. No pressures as yet. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cult of Cantona. New season is upon us. I'm Paul Butler-Lennox and you're very welcome to the first episode of the 2026-2027 season, or as we found out today, another year of yearly punishment and anxiety and stress. But no, I have to say things are looking up. I'm very satisfied with a lot of the things that have been happening over the last couple of months, particularly since Cara came in January. Couple of things. First of all, just wanted to, I suppose, mark the episode, no pun intended, mark the episode at the start by remembering Darren Webb, who was instrumental to the progress and the growth of this show and what we do in our events over the last couple of years. Darren Webb was a true Mancunian, home and away fan. Many of you will know him from his own YouTube show, Webby and O'Neill. Straight talker, straight shooter, didn't suffer fools gladly. Also a steeped historian of Man United. Massive fan over many years, and obviously very deeply involved with ex-players. He was a minder and a booker. He's also head of security at Hotel Football. Just wanted to open the episode by saying that it's going to be a huge loss to the Manchester United fan community that Darren is no longer around to send a funny voice note or to slag us off or to say lovely things about Ireland. And also he was instrumental in helping us gain access to some of the ex-players and wonderful people that we've had on over the last couple of years. I just want to thank him for that and just say that he will be missed, particularly when we go over to Old Trafford, because he always met us and our team with a smile at the front door, asked us how we were getting on, and most importantly, he was incredibly generous, gracious with his time. He also helped us get some merchandise signed by Eric Cantona, which is not an easy thing to do unless you're paying 500 quid and going to the convention centre or down to Killarney or the Helix or whatever. Shout out to Gordon Mann who runs that as well. It's a great show. And just to say that we're really grateful for his time and his energy and accepting us as part of the overall community, and rest in peace. Mr. Mark Halvey?
That's
right.
Right.
Is that correct?
It is indeed.
I nearly said Harvey for a second. Thanks a million for coming in. Thanks for getting involved in the show. Tell us a little bit about your involvement, your fan status as a Man United fan. How that happened? How you were you indoctrinated by a relative at an early age? How did that come about? What does the club mean to you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Paul, first, and I acknowledge your words. It's a huge loss for the Man United community. But yeah, I suppose I'm more than 30 years suffering, enjoying, going through the roller coaster of being a Man United fan. The family blame for that, I guess, probably would be my nanny. 1995 FA Cup final, I believe a couple of t-shirts, one for Everton, one for Man United, were bought, and I got the Man United one. So that was obviously post '94 World Cup where we had Irwin, we had Keane, so there was a natural interest there through Irish success. So
Yeah.
I guess it was 1995 when I would have started into it, and myself and my brother, who's a few years older, both got jerseys, so I was following him to a degree. But we were probably also getting one over on our dad, who was a Leeds fan. So we all recently went to the game in Crow Park as well, which is the last game I've seen, and the first win that my son got, as I've now passed the glory, the responsibility of being a United fan and everything it brings to my 10-year-old son. So unfortunately, his first 10 years,
you've passed on that dysfunction to him.
Yeah, his first 10 years weren't the first 10 years I had or you would have had. So obviously the first half of the United fanship was all full of glory, and we've been suffering since Ferguson and the Glazers came along, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the Leeds game as well. It was a brilliant celebration of the club. The atmosphere was really amazing. I went to obviously I go up to Old Trafford when I can, which would be a lot sometimes. But it was the closest I've experienced, because I've seen United play against Bilbao a couple of years ago in the Aviva as well, and I've seen them at friendlies in different places as well over the years, as far back as like 1994 or 5 when they played Shelbourne in Talca Park. I'm a big Shells fan as well, and I have to say it was a great day out. Everyone was in great form, and the atmosphere was the closest I've kind of seen to an Old Trafford, a full Old Trafford, particularly at the start. Obviously it died down because they were all like, it's a friendly, everyone calmed down.
Yeah.
But amazing. What is it that draws you to United, or why do you keep coming back for more?
I think going back to like 95 when I first started getting into it, obviously the FA Cup was a big piece.
Yeah.
They lost that year to Everton.
I remember well.
But that season now it really kicked off for me with Premier League, and it was probably there's Cantona linked there, because it was probably Cantona's replacements in Mark Hughes and Andy Cole that were the big players that I fanboyed over.
Yeah.
And I remember having a Premier League sticker album, and it must have been published just that bit too late for when Cole went from Newcastle over to United.
Yeah.
So what I had to do, and you probably don't have to do this anymore, but I had to scissors out his face from the Newcastle sticker onto a Man United player's head and put the Andy Cole on into the Premier League sticker book. So I suppose all the props to come along with it in that young age, and I see that with my own young son as well. So he's big into the sticker books, the match attacks, all of that side of it, all the collectorship, and the fan banter to it. But it wasn't until I was 13, I think it was, until I got my first taste of Old Trafford. And I think that's once you've seen a live game. Now I actually did go to the Shelbourne game as well.
All right, okay.
I don't know if it's that same game. Maybe they played a later friendly. I think it was more of a reserve team that was out there. But my first time in Old Trafford, I think, is the thing that once you've been in the stadium, once you got amongst it, and once you hear the chants and you're really getting in there with fans, then I think you're hooked.
It's I'm like, don't get me wrong, it was unavoidable for me to be a Man United fan, because my dad, my granddad, I have 3 older brothers. They're all United fans, all their boy kids, and there's quite a lot of them, all their children, and some of the girls are United fans as well. So it's everywhere, and there's WhatsApp groups and there's chats and there's it's kind of unavoidable, but it's pure drama and theatre, and that's what's so spectacular about it, even today. So, and we will have a chat about the whole game, the whole result, a little bit later. But United is like, the sense of community around the club is unlike anything I've experienced, even kind of akin to, like, say, the Dubs or even rugby in this country. It's all encompassing. League of Ireland has its own aura and buzz, which is really nice, but the United fan community and its reach and how kind fans can be to each other, particularly when it comes to around tickets and protecting each other and looking after other United fans on tour, it's really special. And these are things I wasn't aware of when I was younger, but for me, I mean, United is and I have to give props to the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal and Liverpool and Arsenal and say Everton and clubs like that, because they're real football clubs. Because I'm a football fan, so I want to watch a good game of football. But the team I support is Man United. So in comparison to say City or Chelsea, who I hate, who've just like robbed a living and bought titles and the corruption and everything associated with it. I love the club, the idea of the club and what it means, and not just that, all the kind of mystique in and around it as well, and the history and the storytelling, and obviously the Munich air crash and the empathy. There's just magic about the club. And going to Old Trafford for the first time when I went, I just remember walking up the steps and going, and I've been dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but I always remember walking in and just having I suppose what would have been kind of like an outer body experience, where I was like, holy fuck, where am I? And just kind of going, oh.
Yeah, something else.
It's magical. So we'll jump in, will we, and get cracking into the season stuff?
Yeah, sure.
So pre-season was it looked incredibly positive right up until the last hurdle, didn't it? Against AC Milan. I don't know if you've watched much of the game. Some fans don't, because they don't like to get too carried away with the pre-season results.
No, I've watched most of them, and obviously pre-season, it's hard to know what to take from it. If it's much of an indicator, it's building fitness, building morale, I guess.
Yeah.
Certainly what they did out in, what they did in Dublin seems to have been good for the morale anyway. We're seeing so much social media around their trip in Carton House.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be an indicator of decent fitness, trialing out a few players. That doesn't always result in, Mason Mount was having a great pre-season Perlo, as they call him. But, he'd probably be out for the season now, so you get that in pre-season as well. Maybe a few players that are performing to get in ahead of the transfer window close and stay at the club, stay on the wages.
There's always a bit of that, isn't it? You feel as if
there's always a few.
They turn it up to just to stay in the squad, to not be put transfer listed. It's like Xerxes,
Prime example.
I do. When he's playing well, he's good, but I found him to be, over the last couple of years, to be, that's why he did so well abroad, because you have an extra 2 seconds on the ball.
Yeah.
You just don't get that in the Prem. Someone's on you straight away, because the fitness levels and the agility and just the sheer pace of the game. And now with the new rules that they've brought in, these kind of the throw-in rules and the goalkeeper rules,
all good rules,
all the time-wasting rules, is only going to make the game faster.
Yeah.
And I saw that today when watching the whole game. We'll start, I suppose, about the new transfers that we've got in so far. Santos and you can help me out with this.
Baleba.
Baleba is about signing the dotted line.
Well, Baleba,
Carl
it's nearly done, isn't it?
Yeah. There seems to be a significant effort to try to bolster the midfield, which I don't think is a bad thing, because it frees Bruno. Like the issues I had with Bruno last season, which were very few, but particularly the season before, was the same thing. It's like him feeling as if he had to go back and retrieve the ball and go and come back all the time.
Yeah, bypassed him really.
And then, because when Bruno's at his best, he's floating around that kind of false 9 or number 10 kind of role, and scoring goals and taking free kicks and being confident and free flowing. So I like the idea of bolstering the midfield, but as we found out today, the same old problems are resurfacing very early on with the back four. I mean, apart from Heaven, they're the same 3 that started 5 years ago.
Yeah, I seen that that stat, and it was concerning, all right, to say the least, and particularly in the fullback area where Luke Shaw just won't have this full season competing all fronts in him.
What was it one of the lads said in the WhatsApp group today? He said, do you know what it's like? He says, you ever in the playground and you see when the swing is wrapped around the top? He said, on both of those goals, Luke Shaw looked like a fat kid trying to jump up and grab the swing. Here's the thing with Luke Shaw for me. He started every Premier League game last season, which is commendable. But the reality is that age is not on his side. And if you want to win the league, you can't. He had 2 howlers in one game, and if he was playing for Man City and playing like that, Pep would have him off at halftime. He just wouldn't.
Yeah, it's true.
So this is the thing, and I've been saying this on the show for a couple of years now about ruthlessness. If we want to win the European Cup, or if we want to win the league, we have to behave like a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or a Man City or a Chelsea. And if you're not doing the job, you need to either get off, literally be taken off and dropped. Because that's the only, bringing in someone who's going to do the job the way they're supposed to do it is the only way forward. And I'd say that kind of, and you can agree, disagree with me or whatever. It's the same with kind of like stuff. We get very sentimental for players that we get attached with, in my opinion. Fans, the likes of Martinez, for example, who I love, and when he's fit, he's an animal, and I love him. But if he's injured, and we're going to have this Brian Robson school of thing where he's guaranteed a place and to start when he's out for like 6 weeks at a time, and then he comes back, and then it takes him 3 games to get up to fitness again, or to get match sharp, and to get back to what we want him to be. Like, we need to be ruthless. If the Ligt thing isn't working out, move him on. If Mount's not working, move him on.
Yeah, Mount should be gone. He's on too high a wage, isn't he? And the Ligt, the fact that he's not ready after a full summer. Same kind of concern there with Zesco as well. Yeah. That, they're not at the World Cup, but they're not ready for day one. So you really need to hone in on that, because we don't have the luxuries of having these players in the squad if they can't be ready. And then it's kind of, there's an element of the ruthlessness. I think obviously Luke Shaw should be gone, but even Bruno Fernandes, I'm his biggest fan. If we won the league last year, would an Arsenal or a City sell Bruno Fernandes this window, or would they at least? They would have replaced him last year.
Yeah,
definitely this summer. But we're probably going to give him a new contract of a couple of years, by the sounds of it, to save him from going to Galatasaray. Why is that a concern? And then how long will that contract be? What will that wage be? And when are we going to, sign? Look for the Cole Palmer, in my opinion, would be potential replacement.
Yeah.
But obviously we have bigger priorities. So, that is something for next season, maybe the season after, which is why, I don't think we're not in that competing for the title space ultimately. There's so much to be done. And as you said, the hierarchy are, they're prioritising. I think they're going about things the right way.
I agree too.
Last year was the forward department. This season it seems to be the midfield department, and probably the defensive department next year, which obviously is a year too late. And but that's the way things are done.
Bear in mind that we got beaten 2-0 today. So it's obvious Emperor wearing new clothes kind of scenario. We look at these other things and what's happening. The obvious thing that needs to be fixed is what happened today. Mm-hmm. The Bruno Fernandes thing, I love Bruno. He's given me so much happiness. But the reality is, just with the like I said, the high intensity of the Premier League. Bruno's a super fit lad, and he's like that. I'm about twice the width of Bruno, and I appreciate everything that he's done for the club, and he is incredible. And I'd love to see. He's going to stay, so I'd love to see him win the league this year. Not looking likely from today's performance, but the over sentimentality of players that have played. Like I didn't get caught in the wave of the Casemiro thing last year. Yeah, he was playing well, but this farewell tour of, I'm leaving in 6 months now. I'm going to start doing everything to help this club kind of stuff. I know I was at the last game of the season. I was in I fluked my way into the executive boxes and I was watching it,
nice.
And it was nice. And I was watching what was going on around me, and I was like, this is why we worship in a false prophet. I'm not saying that he wasn't a good player, but that's kind of like, he's obviously not going to get a testimonial because he wasn't there long enough. But why are we giving him a testimonial like send-off?
It was testimonial like send-off, right? Wasn't it? And the same people that were singing the praises were calling for his head 18 months before. Get rid, and he didn't look up to Premier League standard for 6 to basically a year of the 4 years he was at the club, he wasn't at Premier League standard.
Look at him at the World Cup. He was so leggy, like he was for United.
Yeah.
There was times he got caught on the ball and in possession, and he was coming in scissor,
Exactly, yeah. He was found out in that centre mid. And look, same with what we mentioned about Luke Shaw playing every game in the Premier League last year. It's no coincidence.
Yeah.
Shaw, Casemiro, maybe even throw Harry Maguire into that boat in terms of, when a World Cup year is coming up, there is a natural uptick in performance. They want to make squads, or they want to be in peak condition. But their players coming, they're more senior players. They're getting on, and we can't, as a United squad, be reliant on those motivations of 30-something players. We need to have them fighting for their place and have competition coming up behind them.
It's just not what the top teams do. It's not what Arsenal are doing. Arsenal are not, like, I do love Tielemans, and I was well aware of him, and even during the World Cup I was watching him and going, he's class. But it is that thing, like says the 43-year-old, but he's 29. And yes, he could have 2-3 good years, and it's inspiring to see them trying to get a player like that. But he came in for 35 million because he's approaching 30.
Yeah.
And this kind of assumption that everyone's going to play until they're 37 or 38 is not true.
It's not going to happen.
And people's batteries go at different times. So for me, it's a risk. We should be going for the top midfielders that are in their early 20s. Like the Baleba thing, I think is good. I'm glad we're getting him for, below what is considered market valuation, because he is a very good player. Like,
Are you a Baleba?
When I saw his face, I was a believer. But yeah, I think he's great. And look, it's last year he was under the impression he was going to win the lottery and sign for Man United, and then it didn't happen. So that kind of distraction in anyone's life would throw anybody off.
Killed his form.
It totally killed his form, because he was probably, like, I always talk about the human element with the players. It's like the Rashford thing, and we'll get on to Rashford in a bit. But it's like the human element with the players. He thought he was getting the gift of his life, and then that was taken away from him. That would distract me. It's like an actor, getting down to the last two for a big part for the Lord of the Rings or something, and then it doesn't happen. Then you have to go back to Fair City.
Exactly, yeah. They're human beings, and he was 20. What's he, 21?
Yeah, I think he's just 20.
Definitely
the early 20s. So his head was turned. So I think if we can get him up to speed, and we need that kind of defensive thing that we're missing from Casemiro to some degree. Santos has impressed me a lot, where I was like, this guy, number one, he has the legs because he's a kid, but his attitude, he's like zipping around and just doing a lot of simple things well. And I think there might be a bit of a coup there, unless Chelsea have sold us another mount. There's something going on we don't know about.
They're definitely a good club to buy from, given their strategy, aren't they? And he seems to have leadership qualities. I know when he was out at loan, I think he was captain there for a while, so that's positive. And considering the depth we need this year, he wasn't at the World Cup. I'm sure he's hoping to break into that Brazilian squad. He's young, so he's hungry, and I don't think he's reached potential yet. So that's a good example of the transfer strategy they seem to be going for, which is buying players that haven't reached their peak, and maybe there's less risk if you're not putting them on high wages. That if it doesn't work out, you can potentially sell them on, and you're not stuck with a overinflated, underperforming player whose market value disappears. And we're probably in our last year of getting rid of that deadwood from the previous strategy.
From the last 10 years, we're still paying it.
We've been clearing out deadwood for a number of years, getting rid of people, paying people off. Thankfully, we're not doing it with a manager this time around. We're taking our time now. We've got Carrick in as interim. But yeah, it's a promising change of strategy.
Yeah, I do. Very very graciously, Mark, through his work, invited me along to an event recently, and we got a few minutes to chat with Jason Wilcox. And without going into any GDPR type type stuff, he was very forthcoming about the transfers this year, And I'm a fan of his. I really am, and to be honest with you, I would have been a fan of anyone in that role apart from his predecessor. And I asked him a lot of. He was number one. He was very open to talking to people. Like fans. He was aware we were fans. And I asked him some very direct questions. I said, I commended him. I said, "Well done last season. You really turned the Titanic around." And fair play. And we really, the fans, the real fans, like the real fans who are students of the game, the students of football, have been very closely monitoring kind of what you're doing and how you're getting things right and some of the more difficult decisions that you are making. And I commended him on the Embuemo thing and the Cooney thing, which I think were masterstrokes last year. And then I asked him outright, I was like, so what's happening with a striker? Are we going to get a striker in? And he in a very detailed way explained to me that this is an overall project. He didn't get into the whole 2028 win the league thing, project 2028 or whatever he said. But I've been tasked with a job, to do a job, to get results which are incrementally better as time goes on. He said, and this year, he said, is about the midfield. And I said, is there room for a striker? I said, what about 11? Now, this is a couple of weeks ago, whatever now, at this stage. And I think Lewandowski's he's moved off to the States or whatever. But I was like, what about someone like that or a Henrik Larsson type thing to come in even for 6 months just to be there with Sesko? Just someone to learn from,
Yeah.
Get them in for like a year. Is there any show for a Harry Kane? And he was like, no. And he was very direct but very fair and sound about it all, and he wasn't exactly complimentary of his predecessor either, which I think was nice to hear that from someone who wasn't kind of in a very political way towing the party line. He was like, I have a job to do, that's why I'm here. He said we are getting some great players in. He said we've never worked harder at trying to identify what's right for what it is that we want to do. And he was talking about the character of the people that he brings in. He said it helps if they're fans or if they have admiration for the club.
Yeah.
He said that's a huge thing. He said because if people are coming in just because they think they're signing for the Harlem Globetrotters, he said that's a problem.
That's the way it had been previously, wasn't it? And that's just the reactive signings. The Cavani's, Falcao's, etc. that came in. Some of them worked out better than others. Schweinsteiger, like you could rain off so many FIFA signings for FIFA fans is what I used to complain about at the time. And some of that is why there's so much press releases around this signings, around our murmurs of what we're going to do, not going to do, because I think such a chunk of the global fan base is that kind of FIFA fan, I would call them.
Yeah.
That probably would have been coming on board as a United fan during that period when we were just buying players as if you were playing FIFA. Schweinsteiger, he's won loads of things.
Yeah, bring him in. Of course, it's going to work.
Or 200k plus. Who? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
See what happens. And I think I like that idea that players should need to play for the club. Seems like Baleba. Obviously, his head was turned, and
Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah, he did unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
But that's the type of thing 15 years ago we used to hear United doing all the time. Going essentially tapping up players early, knowing that they really would want to play for the club, getting in there before other clubs, and eventually getting their man and not being in competition. So that's
just
why
being shrewd.
Yeah, that's why the Baleba signing sounds. I watched glimpses of him last season and didn't see a lot there, but I didn't watch loads of him. I'm not going to say I watched loads of him. And if they've been watching this player for the year, then I think I've a bit of confidence to allow him the time he needs this year. And now with Santos playing that role and had a good pre-season, obviously he was taken off today. We're not going to react to that. I've seen commentary saying midfield hauled off, etc. That's just all very reactive. But I think Santos is ready straight away for those first few games of the season, so give Baleba time to bed in. Yeah,
here's a stat for you. Do you know United have, how many times do you think they've won the league when they've lost the first game of the season?
I can't, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in double figures.
Okay.
So any kind of reactive idiot fans, and there's enough of them out there, No offense if that's you, if that's you out there, but you know, you can have an off day. Like, in fairness, it wouldn't be easy going to Hull. I haven't been in the Premier League for 10 years, and the atmosphere was like really aggressive and loud at the start. That'd throw anyone off, you know, especially if they're kind of half going into the season with a little bit of a knock, or, you know, psychologically they're a bit just not ready for it yet. I mean, here's the thing as well: the Premier League has started like quite late now. Usually it's like 10, 12 days ago the Premier League would have started before. So there's a lot of people coming late. Some of them only have have only had 2.5 weeks off. Like, think of that, like, from a physicality or even from a sports psychology point of view. You need you need a month and a half, or 6 weeks, 5 weeks, just to completely switch off. Obviously to do your training and stuff like that as well. So I'm not surprised. I kind of, before the game, I thought United might lose, just by virtue of the fact that, you know, there's a lot of, like, even in the starting lineup today, you know, apart from Darlow, and obviously Baleba's not in the door yet, but they were part of this game, you know, and it takes a while for people to gel. You start any job, you know, if you're working closely with people, it takes a while to develop shorthands, you know, and get to know each other. More than 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, first game of the season, particularly being a away fixture, you can't jump the gun too much. Look, we won our first one a couple of seasons ago, and we came 15th, and we lost lost the first one last season, became third. I don't think you can read too much into it. You know, seeing Cunha from the start today, that obviously wouldn't have been the plan. Ahmad got injured late on.
Yeah.
I think, you know, in an ideal situation, if we had a bit of extra midfield cover, you'd probably be bedding in Tielemans as well and the likes, so that they're not straight into it, because a lot of these players, you know, they're only a few weeks back from the World Cup. They got to latter stages of it. So, a sense of going away to a newly promoted team that were hungry, playing a, you know, big man up top, and we've a young centre back in there. There might be question marks over that approach. I do really, really like Kevin.
Yeah,
and I think he is very much the future, him and Euro. So yeah, hopefully, look, it'll stand to him having a bit of a bruising day today, as did the full back four.
There's always
he's a quality centre.
There's always a part of me when we lose the opening game of the season, and I go, we're not going to beat Arsenal's record, or we're not going to equal Arsenal's Invincibles thing. There's always a part of me when we lose, going, well, that's not going to happen this year. And I know that's kind of petty and silly.
I like that ambition.
But there's a part of me kind of going, oh, you know, we've lost the game. You know, we don't win drawn. But look, ultimately, I don't mind if United lose. I really don't, as long as they play well. And sometimes you can play well and lose. And that's been the frustration that I had under Amram and Ten Hag before that, where we just weren't playing well. And we were going out and we were getting scrappy 1-0 wins or whatever else. And some of the fight backs and some of the interesting European matches that we've had where we came back have been great, and FA Cup matches and stuff like that. I just want to, like, people, it's important not to lose sight of the fact that it's entertainment. It's a distraction from all of the hard work and the trauma and shit that goes on in people's lives. So there's no point going out and watching a match if it's not entertaining.
True.
And that's what I love about United. If we're not entertaining, we're not Man United. So that's why Mourinho didn't work. That's why Ten Hag, after a while, didn't work. That's why Amram didn't work. And I think I would rather see United go out and play well and lose and still finish in the top 4 than to play poorly and win the league. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but winning isn't everything.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think that's what we'll see under Carrick. It's what we've seen under Ole as well, who I was a big fan of when he was there, because there's just a bit of that sense of, you know, the players want to be there. You did?
Yeah, he's just bizarre. You know, it's mad shaking the hand of someone who, you know, that won the European Cup in the last minute. It's crazy. And you know, I work in film and TV, so I'm not, like, if I meet a famous person, I'm not a star fucker. You know, I don't get bowled over by that. But with certain people, you know, sports people, particularly United people in particular, or the likes of Cantona and Ollie. He was lovely. Anyway, point I'm trying to make. Really, really nice. But I digress. Just for obviously with Champions League coming up, and the FA Cup back, and just everything coming kind of thick and fast. At the start of every season for the last few years, we ask where you think United will finish in these competitions. The obvious answer would be win.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But realistically, and I'll get the predictions from the other team as well when we do it online in the next couple of weeks. Realistically, where do you think United will finish in the league this year?
I think fourth.
Yeah.
I think we'll definitely get top 6, and I think we will just about get fourth with Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea. Less football to play and strengthening. I think that's realistic given the amount of games we have. Champions League, we'll get out of the group stages. Yeah. Maybe get past one knockout round.
Jesus.
Hopefully, look. Hopefully, call me pessimistic, but
no, you're a realist.
I think that's realistic, and that's I think we need sustainability at the club. I think that our transfer strategy is based off being a club that tries to get top 4 consistently, which is not something we've done. Ole was the last person to do it back to back. I think I've seen a stat on that this week, so that's pretty shocking that hasn't been there, and that's been a big part of things. But I think we could get to a semi or a final in the League Cup and the FA Cup, maybe both, and have a strong run in that. So I think there could be silverware there. I think there could be silverware there. Let's go with that.
Yeah. So give me a number outside the competition. Just give me a number, right? For all of them, right? League.
Yeah, 4.
FA Cup.
Final.
Oh, I like that. Carabao or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I'll say semi-final on that.
Semi-final, right.
And then
Champions League.
Knockout stage.
Knockout, so
we'll get through the first round.
So, quarters.
So, yeah, let's go quarters. Okay. Let's go.
Right, I'll throw my hat into the ring, and I'm always an eternal optimist, so I'm gonna go. I think United are gonna win the league this year, and I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. I'll tell you why, because Man City will not be Man City. Chelsea might be the old Chelsea, as in Mourinho shit-kicking Chelsea with Alonso. I think Alonso is a great coach. And I think that Liverpool will not be Liverpool. They're not going to play like Klopp. So I think that we always have a weird psychological edge over Arsenal. So for that reason alone, and because it's going to be a fairer race to the final hurdle, I think it'll be like a 3-4 horse race right until the last couple of weeks this time, for the first time in a long time, instead of City running away with it, or Liverpool doing whatever they do, and I don't concern myself very much with them. But I think United, if United get into that and we go on a run, I think we'll steal it in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that's why, because City are not there. And if City get punished in any sort of discernible way because of all the shit they've been up to over the years, I think that'll give everyone else a boost anyway as well on top of that. So force for the Premier League. I'm not going to waffle through the rest of them. I think we'll do a double this year, the FA Cup. I think we'll win the FA Cup as well. And I think we'll get knocked out in the second round on purpose of the Carabao Cup to facilitate the other things. And I think we'll go out in the second round of the Carabao Cup. And I think the Champions League will get to the semis, and it'll be a big indicator of what's going to happen over the next couple of years. Yeah. So thanks for.
There you go. Like that optimism.
No, but
now.
Answers on a postcard, and I've been proved wrong before. Not Michael Carrick. Marcus Rashford. Where are you with him, and how does he fit into all of this for you?
I like him, and he is Man United since boyhood, and I think the club don't want him there. He doesn't want to be there.
Even still,
I deep down he doesn't.
He doesn't, does he? His body language doesn't want. He doesn't want to be there.
Manchester is probably maybe not been good for him. There's a few players like that where it just sucks them in, and he's probably in the wrong circles, and he needs to get out of there to perform to a degree. But I mean, he's been there. You know, he broke onto the scene, and we over relied on Marcus Rashford so much. So I do feel as fans we have to get behind him, and we've a bit to pay back to him. I think he'll hit form. I think we should give him a chance. I think we're stuck with him, and I think in a few months' time, I think he improved us today when he came on, and I think he's a good player. And I like his football. You know, we're running a business here, and do you really want to sell someone like of Marcus Rashford's quality for €30 million when he's worth 3 times that? I would say maybe that's bold.
I don't know. Do you think that Brighton want to sell Baleba for 50 million? You know. Isn't it the same kind of thing? Rashford, like, let's be honest about it, right? Talk of the Devil's a great podcast that I listen and watch too. Shout out to Andy Minton, who's reached out and spoke to us a couple of times. Thanks so much. We really love what you do. One of the lads said in the last podcast that I think it was Laurie that said that he thinks a good season from Marcus Rashford, or he predicts will get the 100 goals in the Premier League. Now, as a result of that, in order to achieve that, he needs to just score 13 goals. Why is 13 goals? Now, I'm not saying that, you know, this is the perception of all Man United fans, but after, and we nicknamed them Meals on Wheels on this podcast, how can you have a season like he had 3-4 years ago where he scored as many goals, you know, double digits, like 30 odd or whatever it was, and then everyone to drop their perceptions of his level of performance to think that a player that was supposed to be a world beater is now a 13 goal a season forward, and think that a player like that can play for Manchester United in that position. It's not acceptable. So
I don't know. I disagree. Like, are we judging Cunha and Mbeumo on the same metrics? What did they score?
It depends on their
last year.
It depends
figures
on
wise.
Obviously their own XG and contributions, but ultimately, and I suppose this is the bottom line and the difference from my perspective on Marcus. They've all said it. Rooney said it about him. Your body language, your head is down. You look like you don't want to be there. You look like you have a bad attitude. And the reality is very, very simple. You're looking at someone like Memphis Depay, who's in Brazil. They were going to release him, so he dropped his wages. He dropped his contract in his wages. He took a pay cut. If Marcus Rashford wanted away from Man United, it's all about money.
Yeah, he would have taken it.
And that's the problem. Yeah. If he wanted to go and be a cult hero in Italy and go and play for Napoli, or if he wanted to go to AC Milan, and I guarantee you Amram would take him tomorrow. Why is he not taking a pay cut to go over and play for a good team? That's like, there's a famous quote from Cantona saying about, you know, I've never played football for money. Never. Now, of course, he got very well paid, but you have to ask yourself, if Eric Cantona or a Keane, maybe not Keane, because Keane's a bit money hungry, despite all of the niceties and stuff like that. But yeah. Keane was vehement when it came to his contracts.
Absolutely, yeah.
And getting the most he could. And that's understandable. And I get that with Rashford. But surely it's about the love of playing. How can anyone come back and be a bit part if they want to be the best they can be? They want to be the absolute best they can be, and behave like that. It's the same with the Sancho shit. That would wrong.
It's true, and I find there's common themes from what you mentioned. You know, you mentioned Keane, Sancho, Rashford. What's common theme through all them is kind of that working class background.
Yeah.
But the way Man United handled, you know, players like Keane at the start of his career is very different to the way they handled, you know, a Rashford, a Manu. In terms of the money they're putting them on, is anyone at the club there looking after them? Are they going through their education? They are put on too much money too soon. No one cleans anyone's boots anymore when they're 10 years old. All of that is gone. There's nothing to keep these players humble and modest, and they get put on to too much money too soon. I think that's what Marcus Rashford is an absolute product of the way Man United treated their young players, and that's why I feel a bit of a loyalty to him, because you could see too much pressure being put on his shoulders far too young for when he broke through onto the scene. I think I read today that it was against or Hull was an early game anyway.
Yeah.
Was it 10 years ago or something? But straight away, and that's what we've been doing for 10 years, is putting too much pressure. And of course, I think you see it with Manu as well. There's a lot of talk about what his agent, what his brother, the money, was he pushing for more money, pushing away from the club maybe earlier than you'd like to hear as a fan. Obviously he was treated terribly under Amorim, didn't get much of a look in. But you'd like to think that your young players would persevere. If they were at Madrid, at Barca, at City, they would persevere longer. But when it comes to United, kick up fuss because these guys pay out. That's the perception and impression. So that's a little bit of why I feel that extra bit of sympathy maybe for Rashford and that will to get behind them. Because let's be honest, would you, it's not apples for apples in the normal man's life.
Yeah.
But if someone approached me tomorrow and said, look, there's this great prospect for something great in your career. Oh, by the way, you just have to do a half your wage cut. You know what I mean?
You wouldn't
and
do it, would you?
These guys are footballers, but the zeros, it all means nothing. They're still, human beings. They take all that away. They're spending as much as they're earning, some of these guys.
Yeah.
So
well, they have to get
that piece.
They have to get paid for the standard of living they've become accustomed to,
which is a crazy standard of living. And no one at the club is there saying, sitting them down and saying, let's financial plan together. They want, it's all part of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel, call me sentimental and emotional. I think, he's a product of that. The way the club look after young players, and I'd like to see fans get behind them, and we're also stuck with them.
Yeah. So we've no choice really. It's that thing that Scholes said, before about when he was at United, and he said he was very close to leaving, and he went into plucked up the courage to go into the, Fergie's office, and he was like, I think, is there any chance I can? And he was like, is this about a wage increase? And he went, yeah. And he went, fuck off. And then he went back and played for the club, for the next. I understand. They're not stupid men. They know that they're playing for not only the biggest commercial club in the world, but one of the biggest businesses in the world. So they know that 300 grand a week or however many million a year is water off a duck's back in comparison to their overall turnover and revenues. They know that. The problem is that, it blurs the lines because they don't offend the millionaires and the billionaires when they do this stuff. They offend, and I've seen, I've been to Manchester a lot. There's a lot of poverty in Manchester. There's a lot of hardship. There's a lot of trauma, like there is in Dublin. And the only release that these people have is watching this football. So when you do things like that, it offends people. It offends them because they have to get up, 60, 70 pounds, if off touts even more. Like there's many United fans that live across from the stadium that can't afford to go to the match. So when Marcus Rashford doesn't want to play or comes back and he has a bad attitude, and I'm not making it all about Rashford, there was a culture of it. And look, they are trying to get some things right because they're obviously trying to. They're aware they have a couple of buttes coming through the youth system, like a couple of wall beaters. Like even Wilcox was saying to us, I was like, how good is JJ Gabriel? Like, how good is he? And like, is he like Ballon d'Or good? And he says he could very well be, yeah. He's that good. So maybe they're trying to fix that. And in the past, what we've done with the likes of Marcus and a couple of other players in recent times. Another good example is Janusaj, who everyone thought was going to be the next big thing a few years ago. You're bedding them in too early. I think if they get this right with JJ Gabriel, what they've done is they've put him under obviously contract, and they've made promises and assurances which are important. But let's not ruin them, and let's not ruin them with too much money too quickly. When you're 15 or 16. You've however many amount of grand landing in your bank account. Like, kids are distracted by TikTok. Throw 10 grand a week into the equation.
Exactly. You have to manage them and not just use them as some sort of pawn. Trying to get them maybe exposure too soon, get them more first team experience, and then there's an element of that. Are they trying to get value into the player too young, and then you end up with players with the wrong sort of motivation. Garnacho, perfect example, you know. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with JJ Gabriel over the next few seasons. Kai Rooney as well, obviously the more high profile. That's how they manage that. There's many complex factors to that one.
Yeah,
so.
I'm really curious to see what happens with Kai Rooney, because there's a working class street footballer energy about his dad, and don't get me wrong, like Rooney, like when Rooney saw red when he was playing, like he'd take your head off, he'd really take your head off. And don't get me wrong, apples may not fall very far from the tree with his son. I hope he's like his dad, but there's a softer upbringing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's less kind of
That's
scraps out on a council estate type stuff that's in Rooney that maybe I don't know. He could be an absolute maniac like his dad, and I hope he is.
Yeah.
And he is a great footballer. I've watched footage, him and JJ Gabriel. And there's lots of players that look really, really good, from the 16s right up to the under 18s reserves. Like, there's loads of interesting stuff going on. Amas, Shea Lacey, really good, solid looking future focused players. But Kai Rooney in particular, I'd be curious to see how the mentality side of things works, because they're not always hand in hand.
And the advice he's getting around them, because I think the talk was he was gone a few months back, and then I think he got injured. Mm-hmm. So who's around them and what all that looks like. But the hunger factor is going to be very different for a Kai Rooney or a Fletcher of the two the two brothers that were there. Whether they're there on merit or because of name, we'll only find out in the years to come.
Yeah, I think it's another thing as well about players coming through. Not everyone has to be a superstar, I mean, I remember at the time when we're looking at your Darren Fletchers, your Darren Gibsons, your Welbecks, even Carrick. I have to be completely honest. Like, around the time from like when he signed in 06 right up to 12, 13, don't get me wrong, he had some great games and I was appreciative of him, but he was not, I wouldn't say he was in any way a water carrier, he wasn't. But I wasn't rubbing my hands and looking at the telly or in the stands going, isn't it great he's playing? Not every player has to be.
Yeah, there was a safeness to Carrick, and I remember call him Carrick the Crab at times. The sideways passes.
Jesus Christ.
The sideways passes.
Yeah.
But
it's only now you appreciate that,
yeah,
right?
you think of exactly, and you think of this, the Roma game was a standout. I think he scored, I would say two goals in the Roma game. I think that was his best ever game for United. But latter stages of career as well. And they're players that improved the squad. They have the right character, and we needed them to compete on all fronts. So that's the question of whether we can build a squad again like that, like what Fergie had all those years, like Park Ji-sung, all these sort of players that can, that may not be in your first 11, dream 11 every week, but they really contribute.
Yeah, I mean, you look at any United squad over the years. I mean, there was always people like that in the squad that had a very specific job to do and did it. And I think that's the problem with some fans. They're never happy. They're expecting marquee signings in every position, like the top, the best of the best of the best of the best. The reality is that you need people that know that they're not that player sometimes, in order to make everything tick. If you have 11 superstars in a team, look what's happened to. Case in point, PSG when they had Mbappe,
the trio.
Messi, Neymar, whatever. It just didn't click, and they needed to get rid of that and just get everyone that was working as a team in order to facilitate that. One last thing before we wrap up. Would you like to see more signings? Who would you bring in and why?
I think we need full-back cover. Let's talk of, I think Salinas, left-back, Atletico and Barca are rumoured. So my practical head tells me if that comes true and we get Xerxes out and get a experienced forward, I would have said Mateta is someone that I really liked. I don't know if he's gone yet or if he's moved.
Not sure.
If he hasn't, it feels like I don't think Crystal Palace, I think it looks ominous for them this season.
Yeah.
So Mateta would be my one. Go and sign him, get rid of Xerxes and Salinas in the left back cover.
Right.
Bolton asked for 2.
You'd be happy with them?
Yeah, it's just I'm as you can see from my predictions earlier, I'm very pragmatic.
I'm a pragmatist.
I'm not gonna go. Blue sky ticket. I'm not even gonna go there.
Right.
I'm hoping you will.
No, I will. I'm old fashioned, and I'm kind of like I'm an old romantic. I would just like to see. I just remember how disappointed I was in '96 when United didn't sign Alan Shearer. Because
there's fucking dearer.
Yeah, you should. Alan Shearer is fucking. But and look. We're doing a lot of the other things well. I'd just love to see something bananas like a Harry Kane come in. Just to have someone to know that when we're playing shit, someone can score. Because I haven't always felt that over the last couple of years. So a Harry Kane for me, I've been banging that drum for a while. Even if his pace is gone, because he looked at it a little bit in the World Cup, even if he's just sitting behind, a Sesko, and then look what we'd have around him, in terms of, imagine the assists and some of the magic that happened between Bruno and Harry Kane. Or, notwithstanding that, just a fucking striker, anyone. Like, anyone from League of Ireland. Just anyone. Because we need a striker. We need an out-and-out striker. Don't get me wrong. And Mbeumo, Cunha, Bruno on their day, there's some really interesting things happening. But sometimes it just, something gets mixed up in the formula and we don't score some games.
Do you have confidence in a fit Sesko?
I have, yeah. Well, I have confidence in a bulkier Sesko. Because, and some of those pictures, this kind of beast mode stuff was appealing to me. Just purely because there was times I felt he got a bit pushed around last year. And, I'd like to see a more physical. I haven't seen him. Obviously, none of us have seen him apart from that kind of training and stuff. But I'd like to see him on the ball and see if his physicality has improved. He had some lovely moments last season, amazing. But he was very. Xerxes has to go. He just has to go. Whether it's now or in the winter, he has to go. Not because I don't like him or because I don't think he's good. These comparisons to Ronaldinho are all well and good, and him turning on a sixpence and having lovely flicks and all that type of stuff, and he's great on the box, but he's not playing futsal in a fucking school hall.
Yeah,
the comparisons to Ronaldinho are inaccurate because Ronaldinho was fucking fast. He was fast as fuck, and this guy isn't.
Yeah, he's a poor man's Dimitar Berbatov.
Exactly. So any striker, any time. Fucking get it done and give us a break, will you? Because it's for exactly these reasons. And just like I'll just give you a quick story about the Leeds game. Jokingly, Luke Shaw was walking up to take his penalty, and I shouted, and I love Luke Shaw, but he's fodder for jokes a lot of the time, and I shouted, from the stand, I was like, pretend there's a lasagna down there, Nick. And the whole fucking stand erupted. Now, even though I've seen Luke Shaw many times, and he's never slow, but he looks very bulky, and he's getting older now. And I'd love to see him stay on at the club because he can do a job. And in over 5 or 10 yards, he's very good. But we need cover for him, and when he's not playing well, we need someone to come in straight away. So anybody. It's the times like this where you're looking at the likes of Wan-Bissaka going, and you're like,
the Lewis Skelly rumours, which seem to be completely untrue, were very very interesting, and it could have been maybe even centre mid and left back cover if it had came true, but I think they were just rumours.
I think that's why they want Baleba as well, because Baleba stepped in different positions.
Yeah, but he has done a bit of cover left back, which so maybe there's a bit of sense to that. But we're in starting team sheet and cover. We're across both full back areas.
Yeah. The defence, I think, when you get into the Champions League, I think we'll be found out but look, there's always another transfer window. That's your lot for now. Mark, welcome to the Cult of Cantona.
Cheers, Bob.
If you like what we're doing, if you like what we're about, there's a couple of ways that you can support us. We do this for fun. We have jobs and lives and kids and everything else that comes with that, and careers and all sorts of stuff outside of this. We do it because we love talking about Manchester United. We do it because we love Manchester United. And if you want to support what we do, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can subscribe on the YouTube. You can get us on Spotify as well, so follow us there. Our show tends to do better in audio on Spotify in general. And there's another thing you can do. You can go along to buymeacoffee.com/Cult of Cantona. Buy us a coffee, become a member. There's little perps. Like perps. Hey, kill that perp. There's little perks that you can avail of from that. We'll be doing little bits and pieces and signings and giveaways and all types of stuff. And later in the year, we will be doing further Man United events. We'll be bringing some excellent people over. We've really exciting news coming up in the near future about that. So thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in and listening to my waffle. Mark will be joining us over the course of the season as well, and #believe.
Look forward to it. Cheers.
Baleba, you better believe it.